In 1959, two films burst onto cinema screens and changed everything, bringing with them the Nouvelle Vague. Truffaut's Quatre Coups was an enormously personal, direct and painful portrayal of youth.
Qu'est-ce qui lui prend? Oh, c'est le bouquet!
Mais éteins-le au lieu de crier!
Oh!
But then Godard did this. A Bout de Souffle, with its audacious and rule-breaking editing, was an even bigger revolution in filmmaking.
C'est interdit d'aller voir Steve. Hélas, hélas, hélas. J'aime une fille qui a une très jolie nuque.
Edited by Cécile Decugis, who'd cut both directors' first short films, it both angered and astonished cinema-goers and critics worldwide. Whilst one of the least documented of all our editors, some of her own words survive from an interview with Declan McGrath. In 1953, I got a job as a trainee editor on the feature Madame de, which was directed by Max Ophüls. I learned a lot on that film, how the cutting room worked and how to make splices and organise the bins full of film. Around this time, a friend introduced me to Claude de Gevrey, who was a scriptwriter and close friend of François Truffaut and Godard. My first work for this group was cutting Les Mistons for Truffaut. He rarely came into the cutting room because he did not like it very much, whereas you cannot imagine a film of Godard's being edited without him being present. Godard was responsible for introducing the jump cut, where a scene is interrupted by the removal of a section of it. It has since been applied more loosely to any abrupt discontinuous cut.
Merde, n'appliquez.
To quote Cecile again, "When you look at the films of the new wave, it is true you are much more aware of the editing. It is often visible rather than invisible. However, this was not totally new. The editing of Sergei Eisenstein was also very noticeable and visible rather than invisible. Godard in particular was very impressed by the Russian filmmakers. However, it's certainly true that the style of A Bout de Souffle was definitely a shock for the public. It was a discovery of something which seemed fresh and modern. Cecile also worked hard on recreating all the on-location sound to help give the film its natural feel. Whilst we know Godard was very hands-on in the editing, Truffaut was much less so, describing it once as boring. He found the editing of his next film, Tirer sur la pianiste, something of a challenge. Cecile contributed not only to the film's structure, but also to some of these dazzling moments, and again on mixing and recutting the on-location sound. Truffaut and Godard were not that interested in the sound. They wanted the film to be alive, spontaneous, but as Cecile herself put it, often that which appears most natural can require the most reflection. In the first of these three more clips from this amazing film, take a look at how Cecile magnifies Aznavour's hesitation at the door. And the abrupt montage of his wife's suicide.
disparu. Tu as recommencé ta vie.
And here, there's a delicious bit of cutting in the car which allows the couple to make their escape from gangsters.
Après les amoureux, les curés ils ont des caleçons longs et faces d'anchois. Arrête le feu rouge, merde!
Always a committed political figure, Cecile's work on the Truffaut film was interrupted on March 9th, 1960, by her arrest for facilitating meetings of the National Liberation Front, which sought to free Algeria from French rule. And here's where we run into trouble. According to Truffaut's biographers, Debec and Trubiana, Cecile wasn't able to edit Tirer sur la pianiste as she was in jail, and that Claudine Boucher stood in for Cecile at the last minute. We're not quite certain which version of events is true. Regardless of this question of timing, they say that Truffaut sprang to her aid, raising 20,000 francs to help her, and was a frequent visitor to Roquette prison to offer support. Godard did nothing. Latterly, she was asked by Eric Roma to cut Ma Nuit chez Maud and became his regular editor. Roma was a more classical and structured filmmaker who preferred long takes which had been carefully worked out and was particularly careful over sound, often going out recording room sounds himself and adding atmospheres to scenes. Cecile subsequently lived in Algeria making further political films, where she died in 2017 with hardly a murmur from the press. For such a pioneer, this was an outrageous, invisible ending indeed.